Hey guys, it's Tony from Historic Barbecue. It's Tuesday. That means tacos on Stay Historic while you stay at home. Last week we did chicken tacos, so we're switching it up this week and doing some beef tacos, some steak tacos. I got a flat iron steak here from my friends over at Liberty Farm Market. I'll go through that a little bit on how you prep that up. Similar to a flank steak or a skirt steak, a little bit more tender. So we'll go through that after we make our marinade. So this is sort of like a carne asada style. So we got some. This is orange juice. It's from 2 oranges. My first orange was not very juicy, so I'll add to the second one. This is 2 limes. We're gonna do maybe a tablespoon of garlic. No exact measurements today. And we're gonna do a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of oregano, a teaspoon of cumin, some fresh cracked black pepper, same thing. Until your hand gets tired. And I'm going to do about a tablespoon or so olive oil. And we're going to put a little bit of vinegar in there too. Normally I use white vinegar or red vinegar, but we're making some pickled red onions in a minute, so I'm just going to use the same apple cider vinegar. Whisk that all up together and we got our marinade. Just need a whisk or a fork. So a little bit different than our marinade last week. This is definitely a thinner marinade, got a little bit more citrus flavors in there, but going back to that cumin and oregano again to get the taco vibe. So that's it for our marinade. Let's take a look at this steak. Get all this out of the way for us. So I already cut this guy in half because I wanted to show you how I did this. So normally this is about twice as long as it is. But this is a wagyu top shoulder steak, which is the store they call it a flat iron. So the big thing that we need to make sure that we do on this is that, get the right knife. Sometimes these are going to have this membrane or silver skin right down the center of them. You can see that goes all the way through, end to end, and that's never going to render out. And if you cook it just like this, that center part's going to be super chewy. So basically I'm going to split this right down the middle. And if we do it just right, we're not going to lose really any meat. So I'm just starting at one end with my knife, going right across that silver skin. And you really want to angle your knife toward the silver skin because that's a lot more durable than the meat. Once you get it started, you'll see that here. I'm just gonna go all the way across. Once you get it across, we can just kind of run the knife across it. There we go. So this comes from the top shoulder of a cow and right on the top of the chuck roast. So this is going to be a cheaper cut than a ribeye or a flank steak or a skirt steak, but it's going to be just as tender. You can see how marbled this is. So just this little extra work is why you're getting a discount, and I think it's really going to pay off for us. This should be super tender if we cook it right. There we go. Now that we got it started, just go straight across. And I'm keeping this knife angled towards the silver skin. It's kind of like splitting a brisket.
So what are the chances that somebody could actually find this cut of meat?
They actually sell these at Kroger, so some of the retail packaging is going to already have it split. I think the ones they sell at the grocery store are often already seasoned. Like sometimes they're the steaks. They got them on the meat counter and they say great for grilling. In the shrink wrap package. So these are widely available. I don't think you're going to get one that's quite this marbled. So now we got in our pieces. I kind of hacked it up a little bit there, but that's okay. We're gonna slide our knife under the silver skin. You really want to try to get just the silver skin and not all this meat, but the pressure of the studio lights and the camera, I'm not doing quite as good as I did on the first half of this guy.
I thought you kept looking up at me when you were doing the marinade, and then I realized you were looking at the cheat sheet that's behind my head.
I only looked once.
I was like, oh, wow, you're just checking on me.
That one's pretty
Takes
good.
care of the camera lady.
And we're just going to do the same thing on this side. Just got to get your knife underneath there. And you can see how tough this silver skin is, why you don't want to eat it. So I got this from Liberty Farm Market. If you guys have seen, I did a cooking class there last May, I believe, or it might have been
September.
later. September. We were hoping to do a couple more this year, but it's tentative at this point of how that's all going to work out. But this is all the meat that he carries out there, super high quality stuff. He's very particular about what he carries. He raises some of his own cattle. This specific cut we're looking at here today is a pasture raised, non-GMO, local wagyu. So it checks all the boxes. So I'm pretty excited to try these. If you can't find your flat iron and you want to stick to something a little more familiar, you can do this exact same recipe with a skirt steak or a flank steak. I'm also a fan of flank steak, so I'm not going to go wrong with that. There we go. Probably should try to get all this off. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me hack at this thing, but there we go. It's actually, of course, the last one comes right off. But another important thing is you want to make sure you keep an eye on which direction the grain's going. If I wouldn't have cut this in half, it would have been a little bit more obvious because it would have been twice as long. But when we slice these, we want to make sure we slice against the grain. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit sturdy. But we're just going to take our steak, put it in our marinade in the fridge for a couple hours, up to 8 hours. The ones I cooked earlier today, I put in around noon, so they were in there for about 5 hours. Get this raw meat out of the way. So once you separate those are pretty thin, so it's not going to take a long time to cook, about 3 or 4 minutes per side. We just want to cook that to a medium, so I pulled the ones off. We're going to show you here in a little bit. At about 125, and they're in a warm oven, so those will come up to about 130, 135 by the time we cut them. But we're going to top these with some cilantro, lime, chimichurri. So we're going to make that first. I'm a big chimichurri fan, so this is kind of the taco take on that by swapping out the parsley that you would normally have in a chimichurri with some cilantro. So I'm just going to take, that's good. You get a few stems in there, that's okay. If you want this really smooth, you can do this put all these ingredients into a food processor, but we're going to leave it a little coarser today just to get a little extra texture. Just chop this all up. I like making this ahead of time, at least 30 minutes, but you can actually make it the day before and set it in the fridge just to let everything kind of mix together. It's pretty close to where I want it. I don't want this oil over. So
Some aggressive chopping.
got our cilantro, some pinch of salt.
We've got the wood work purveyor. I don't know what the name of it is. He said, now that's a cutting board.
I know, I ran out of board oil, so this guy's getting a little thirsty. I'm going to have to order some on Amazon. So I got about 3 tablespoons of garlic here. Cilantro, garlic. We're going to do lime juice, so 1 lime.
If you think he's this organized when he normally cooks, you're wrong.
I'm not.
You don't use little cute little containers.
I don't, but
It's very cooking show-esque.
I'm pretty organized in the trailer when I'm.
You are very
cooking
organized, yeah. But when it's just the camera lady, it's just more from the heart.
Because this just means more dishes.
Correct. In addition to being camera lady, I am also dish lady.
So we're also going to put some oregano in here. Again, we're not doing exact measurements today. If you were going to make this to top a normal steak, you could put some shallot or a little bit of white onion in there. But since we're putting the pickled red onion on there, I'm going to skip that today in here. Don't want to overly onion it. It's probably about 2/3 a cup of olive oil. And I'm going to put some red pepper in here. And mix that all up. And that's really all there is to it. There's no cooking necessary. You can kind of taste it as you go if you need to add a little salt or I got the oil about right in there. You don't want it like soupy, but you also don't want it super dry. Like I said, if you want this more like a sauce, you can just throw all that stuff in the food processor, hit the button a few times, and go. But we're going for the coarse texture today. So that's our main topping on our tacos. And then we're going to make some pickled red onions. Super simple to make. I love pickled red onions. If you go to any classic barbecue joint down in Texas or many other parts of the country, you're always going to find some pickled red onions. Super easy to make, only a couple ingredients. So we're going to do about 2/3 of a cup of apple cider vinegar. I might have to upgrade my cutting board to one with a historic barbecue logo on there. Not that there's anything wrong with the OBR logo. I'm going to do about 1/4 cup of water. And then you need about a tablespoon of sweetener. You can just use normal sugar. Some people use agave or honey. I like to use maple syrup. So this is not super fancy maple syrup, but it's decent maple syrup. About a tablespoon.
It's not Aunt Jemima.
No. And about a teaspoon of salt. I think all the whisk are in the dishwasher. So we're just mixing that all up. If you want to get fancy, you can add some garlic in here, or some pepper, or some spicy red pepper, but I like to keep it simple. Of course, I mix this in a bowl and not a mixing thing, so I won't have to try to pour this without making a mess. Not too bad.
Whenever you say you're going to make a big mess, you really don't make a mess.
I know, that's surprising.
I've been kind of keeping track.
And we didn't have quite enough there, so you can just top it off with a little more apple cider vinegar and water. This is a bigger jar than I normally use.
And you can scale this up or down,
Yep.
I assume, just with the
Yeah,
parts
you just
for
want to make
each.
sure that all those onions in there are covered up. And seal it up. Technically, you could use these within about an hour or so, but I like to do it at least a day in advance. I think they get a little bit better the longer you wait. So just kind of shake it up. Just add some of my salt in there and not dissolve, but just set that in the fridge overnight and you're good to go.
What's the longest you'd say that you'd go?
You get a lot of acidity in that vinegar, so from a food safety perspective, I would guess that's safe for quite a long time.
I mean, when I think pickled, I think like years, you know.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to quote me, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you have that in your fridge for a week or two, you're definitely not. I know I've had them at least 2 weeks out from making them, and they were just fine. So I think you'll be okay. But I don't know the technical food safety answer there, so I don't want to get myself in trouble. So let's take a look at our final product here and see how we did. So here's our 2 halves that we cooked earlier. Did a little better job of butchering these. Tortillas just warmed up on the cooker. So I cooked these. It was I turned it all the way up, 450 on the Ranger. It was about 4 minutes aside out there. These aren't thick enough to do a reverse sear or anything like that. So then you just got to make sure you check that grain like we talked about before. You can kind of see on here how the grain's going this way. So we want to make sure that we're making our cuts across that. That'll work. Yeah, nice and pink in the center. This
Here's
is
a
super
question.
tender.
Does it have to be red onion or can you use Vidalia or whatever you have?
That's a good question. I've only ever done it with red onion. The pickled red onion is the traditional barbecue method. But you know, I've seen like pickles that have white onions in them, so I would think that it would work just fine. This is perfectly done. This is super tender. I don't know if you guys can tell that from the video, but this is... I'm pretty excited to try one of these. So we got our taco shell. I'm gonna put a couple pieces of steak. Got our cilantro lime chimichurri. And pickled red onions that we made last night are now missing. There you go. You can see how the color changes overnight too. So, pretty big difference. You don't have to use, some people think you have to use the red wine vinegar to get that color, but it's not the case at all. If you want to get real fancy, you can cut these on a mandolin, but I had the cutting board and a knife out last night, so I just did it by hand. So there we go. There's our wagyu flat iron tacos with some cilantro, lime, chimichurri, and pickled red onions. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Tomorrow we are cooking some pork chops. Thursday we're doing a hanger steak from our friends at Liberty Farm Market again. And then on Friday we're going to do that barbecue burger with some smoked pork belly on top. So unless we have any questions, stay historic, guys. Thanks for watching. And if you have any other questions, let me know. I've gotten lots of people sending me questions after the fact, so just let me know.
I was going to say if anybody can trade Tella hair cutting services for Tony.
Yeah,
he's
I'm
getting a
getting
little, he's got the quarantine due.
We're getting very close to having to wear a hat in the videos today, so we're going forward. So thanks, guys. Stay historic and stay at home.